A woman gave a free haircut to a veteran and was fired by her boss. 30 minutes later, the mayor arrived. Eliza's hands froze mid-snip as the salon door flew open, the little bell above it jingling violently. Victoria Hargrove's face was flushed with anger, her designer heels clicking against the tile floor like gunshots. The veteran in Eliza's chair, Mike, tensed beneath the cape, his freshly trimmed hair dusting his shoulders. Eliza caught Victoria's reflection in the mirror, saw the fury in her eyes, and knew instantly. Someone had told her boss that this haircut wasn't going on anyone's tab. The scissors felt suddenly heavy in Eliza's hand as Victoria pointed at her and mouthed 2 words. "My office. Has a simple act of kindness ever cost you more than you expected?" Today's story reminds us that sometimes the price we pay for doing what's right can lead to unexpected rewards. Stick around to discover how Eliza's compassion changed not just one life, but an entire community. Eliza Martinez had always seen beauty where others didn't. At 32, she could transform even the most neglected hair into something that made people stand taller, smile wider. It wasn't just about looks, it was about dignity. That understanding had brought her to Elegance Hair Studio 6 years ago, despite her parents' persistent disappointment. A Martinez doesn't cut hair for a living, her father had declared on her 26th birthday, the last family dinner she'd attended. Your brother is finishing medical school, and you're playing with scissors. Eliza had simply smiled, used to the comparison. Anthony Martinez, MD, the golden child. Meanwhile, her cosmetology license hung in her tiny apartment, her biggest accomplishment according to her family's standards. But Eliza knew different. She'd seen how a fresh haircut could transform someone who'd given up, how the right style could give a woman the confidence to leave an abusive relationship, how a gentle touch could be the only human contact some of her elderly clients received all week. Millbrook was the kind of town where a broken taillight could become headline news by lunchtime. With just under 12,000 residents, the downtown strip hosted a diner that hadn't updated its menu since the Reagan administration, a hardware store that still kept accounts in a leather-bound ledger, and Elegance Hair Studio, the salon where Eliza had built her reputation cut by careful cut. Victoria Hargrove, who'd inherited the salon from her mother, had initially hired Eliza reluctantly. "Customers prefer stylists who look the part," she'd said, eyeing Eliza's sensible shoes and minimal makeup. 6 months later, when Eliza had the longest client list in the salon, Victoria's criticism shifted to her unnecessary chatter with customers. "They're paying for your hands, not your opinions," Victoria had cautioned, counting the day's receipts while Eliza swept hair from the floor. What Victoria never understood was that Eliza's chatter was why customers requested her by name, why they shared stories about their children's college graduations, their own cancer scares, their marital problems. Eliza didn't just cut hair, she listened, and in Millbrook, that was a rare commodity. Tuesday mornings were typically slow at Elegance, which why Eliza always stopped at Carol's coffee cart for her morning Americano. That particular Tuesday in April felt like the first real spring day after a bitter winter, warm enough for just a light jacket. The kind of morning that made everything seem possible. "Double shot today, Eliza." "You look like you could use it," Carol said, already preparing the drink. Her cart, decorated with twinkling lights year-round, was positioned strategically between the town square and Main Street. "Late night," Eliza admitted. "My sister's kid has colic. I went over to give her a break." "You're a good aunt," Carol replied, handing over the steaming cup. "Oh, heads up." Eliza followed Carol's gaze to a figure approaching slowly. Mike Donovan walked with the careful deliberation of someone unsure of his welcome. His beard had grown wild, nearly obscuring the strong jawline Eliza remembered from the Veterans Day parade photos that still hung in the town hall. His hair, once high and tight according to those same photos, now hung limp around his collar. Millbrook had watched Mike's decline with the uncomfortable mixture of sympathy and judgment small towns perfect. After 15 years of military service, including 3 tours in Afghanistan, he'd returned home to find his wife had filed for divorce and moved to Phoenix with their daughter. The local gossip mill churned steadily with reports of his troubles finding work, his occasional outbursts at the supermarket, the foreclosure notice on his parents' old house where he now lived alone. "Morning, Mike," Eliza called, her voice casual, as if they spoke every day. Beautiful weather, isn't it? He seemed startled to be addressed directly. Yes, ma'am. It's a fine morning. Please, it's Eliza. We went to high school together. You were a senior when I was a freshman. She smiled. You probably don't remember, but you helped me pick up my books once when Jeremy Talbot knocked them out of my hands. Something flickered across his face. Recognition, perhaps, or just surprise that someone recalled a detail about him that wasn't related to his current struggles. Coffee? Eliza asked, gesturing to Carol's cart. I don't... Mike patted his jacket pockets. I'm just out for a walk. My treat, Eliza said, already turning back to Carol. Another Americano, please. Mike's discomfort was palpable. You don't have to do that. I know, Eliza replied simply. But good coffee should be shared. They walked together toward elegance, Mike cradling his cup with both hands, as if it might escape. His fingernails were bitten to the quick, and a scar Eliza hadn't noticed before ran along his right knuckles. Remember when this was Decker's Pharmacy? Mike said suddenly, nodding toward what was now a boutique selling overpriced candles and locally made soaps. Barely, Eliza admitted. But my mom talks about getting cherry phosphates at the counter there. Mr. Decker let me read comic books without buying them, Mike said. As long as my hands were clean. Eliza smiled, seeing a glimpse of the boy who'd been kind to a freshman beneath the troubles of the man. When they reached Elegance, she paused at the door. I've got to open up, she said. But Mike, if you wanted to come by later, I could clean up that hair and beard for you. No charge. The offer hung between them, and for a moment, Eliza thought he might refuse or be offended. Instead, he looked at her with clear eyes for the first time in their conversation. Why would you do that? Because everyone deserves to look in the mirror and recognize themselves, he said. Drop by any time before closing. When Mike pushed open the salon door at 2:45 that afternoon, Eliza had just finished applying highlights to Mrs. Peterson, the elementary school principal who'd been coming to her every 6 weeks for the past 5 years. Well, look what the cat dragged in, Mrs. Peterson said, not unkindly. Michael Donovan, how's that garden of your mother's doing? Those heirloom tomatoes of hers won the county fair 3 years running. Mike shifted uncomfortably. I haven't kept it up the way she did. You should come by the school, Mrs. Peterson continued, apparently immune to awkward silences. We've got a garden club now. The 5th graders would love to hear about your mother's techniques. Before Mike could respond, Eliza smoothly intervened. Let me just finish Mrs. Peterson's foils, and I'll be right with you, Mike. He nodded gratefully and sank into a waiting chair, picking up a dog-eared copy of Sports Illustrated from 2018. 20 minutes later, with Mrs. Peterson safely under the dryer, Eliza led Mike to her station. She draped the cape around his shoulders, noticing how he tensed when her fingers brushed his neck. Just to trim and shape up the beard. Or did you have something specific in mind? She asked, meeting his eyes in the mirror. I've got a job interview tomorrow, he said quietly. Construction company out of Albany. Friend of my dad's owns it. Eliza nodded, understanding the weight of this information. Then we'll make sure you look the part. A man who can be trusted with responsibility. As she worked, Eliza maintained a steady stream of conversation about safe topics. The Millbrook High School baseball team's chances at state championships, the debate over whether to repave Main Street or repair the community center roof first. Carol's petition to extend her coffee cart's permit to include Sundays. Under her careful hands, Mike's appearance transformed. The wild beard became a neat, close crop that defined his jawline. The tangled hair turned into a clean, professional cut that took years off his appearance. Most noticeably, his posture changed, straightening incrementally as layers of neglect fell away. Eliza was so focused on her work that she didn't notice Victoria entering the salon until the telltale click of her heels announced her presence. Victoria paused, sunglasses pushed up into her highlighted blonde hair, designer handbag dangling from her elbow, taking in the scene with narrowed eyes. Almost finished, Eliza said cheerfully, brushing stray hairs from Mike's shoulders. Victoria said nothing, but her expression spoke volumes as she disappeared into her office at the back of the salon. Eliza's stomach tightened, but she maintained her smile, turning Mike to show him the back of his haircut in the hand mirror. What do you think? She asked. Mike stared at his reflection, reaching up to touch his clean-shaven face. I look like myself again. That's the idea, Eliza said, removing the cape and shaking it out. Good luck with the interview tomorrow. You've got this. Mike stood, reaching for his wallet. What do I owe you? Not a thing, Eliza said firmly. Just let me know how the interview goes. His face clouded. I can't let you do that. You've spent over an hour on me. Consider it a thank you for your service, Eliza said. And for helping that freshman with her books all those years ago. Before Mike could protest further, Victoria's office door flew open. Her voice, pitched to Carrie, cut through the salon's quiet buzz. Eliza, a word please. As we pause in our story, consider how often a single decision can alter our path completely. Have you ever stood up for what you believed was right, despite knowing there might be consequences? Sometimes the greatest acts of courage happen in ordinary moments, when nobody's watching. Except they always are, aren't they? Mrs. Peterson, emerging from under the dryer, raised an eyebrow. The only other client, a college student getting a trim from another stylist, pretended sudden fascination with her phone. Mike stood awkwardly by Eliza's station, clearly understanding he was the cause of the tension. Go on, Eliza said softly to him. And Mike, you look great. He nodded once, gratitude in his eyes, and slipped out the door as Eliza walked toward Victoria's office. The next 5 minutes permanently altered the course of Eliza's life. Victoria's office, a small space dominated by a glass desk and framed certificates from beauty industry conferences, felt airless as she closed the door behind Eliza. What was that? Victoria demanded without preamble. A haircut, Eliza replied, keeping her voice neutral. Don't be clever with me. Victoria's manicured nails tapped against the desk. That was a $75 service you just gave away, to a man who clearly can't be bothered to take basic care of himself. Eliza felt heat rising in her face. He's a veteran who's going through a rough time. He has a job interview tomorrow. That's not my concern, Victoria said. Your charity cases are cutting into my bottom line. First that high school girl who couldn't afford her prom updo. Now this. It stops today. I stayed late to do Melissa's prom hair on my own time, Eliza pointed out. And I'll make up the time for Mike's cut too. Victoria leaned forward. That's not the point. This is a business, not a community service center. You're encouraging people to expect handouts. I'm building relationships, Eliza countered. Those people become loyal customers. That man, Victoria said, waving dismissively toward the door, will never be a regular paying customer. And the way he smelled? It'll drive actual customers away. The unfairness of the statement made Eliza's jaw clench. Mike Donovan served this country for 15 years. He's struggling now, but he's still a person deserving of dignity. Very touching, Victoria said flatly. But here's how this works. You either charge full price for every service you provide in my salon, or you find somewhere else to work. Is that clear? The choice crystallized for Eliza in that moment, bright and sharp as scissors in sunlight. 6 years of tolerating Victoria's coldness toward clients, her constant criticism, her focus on profits over people, all that culminated in this ultimatum. Crystal clear, Eliza said. I quit. Victoria's perfect eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? I said I quit. The words were surprisingly easy to say. I'll clean my station and be out by closing. You're throwing away your career over a free haircut for some homeless veteran. Victoria scoffed. Don't be dramatic. Just agree to follow the rules and we'll forget this happened. The thing is, Eliza said, hand on the doorknob, I'm not throwing away anything. I'm choosing what kind of person I want to be. And it's not the kind who turns away people who need help just because they can't pay. Victoria's face hardened. Fine. Get out now. Don't bother cleaning up. I'll mail your final check. Eliza nodded once and left the office, her heart pounding but her mind strangely calm. Mrs. Peterson, still sitting beneath the dryer, watched with undisguised interest as Eliza gathered her personal styling tools from her station. Trouble in paradise? Mrs. Peterson asked when Eliza approached to explain she wouldn't be finishing her highlights. I've just quit, Eliza said, the reality of her situation beginning to sink in, or been fired. It's a bit unclear. Because of Mike Donovan's haircut? Mrs. Peterson asked shrewdly. News traveled fast in Millbrook, but not that fast. Eliza blinked in surprise. These walls are thin, Mrs. Peterson explained, tapping her ear, and Victoria has never mastered the art of the indoor voice. I'm sorry about your highlights, Eliza began, but Mrs. Peterson waved her off. Don't you worry about that. Tanya can finish me up. She reached for Eliza's hand. You did the right thing, dear. Outside, the spring afternoon had turned cool. A breeze picking up as Eliza stood on the sidewalk with her bag of tools and a suddenly empty future. Her apartment rent was due in 2 weeks. Her car needed new tires, and Millbrook had exactly 2 hair salons, one she'd just left, and another owned by Victoria's cousin. Well, that's that, she murmured to herself, squaring her shoulders and starting the walk home. She'd just turned the corner when a familiar voice called her name. Eliza, wait up. Mike jogged toward her, his transformation even more striking in the natural light. He looked younger, more vital, like the man in those parade photos. I wanted to thank you again, he said when he caught up to her. And to ask why you're carrying all your stuff. Your shift can't be over yet. It's permanently over, Eliza said with a small laugh. Apparently, free haircuts violate salon policy. Mike's face fell. She fired you? Because of me? I quit, Eliza corrected, not wanting him to shoulder that burden. It was a long time coming. But your job? I'll find another one, Eliza said with more confidence than she felt. There are plenty of places that need a good stylist. Mike walked beside her in silence for a moment, then said quietly, I'm going to talk to some people. This isn't right. It's fine. Really, Eliza insisted. Everything happens for a reason, right? But Mike had already turned, walking purposefully back toward Main Street. Eliza was halfway through updating her resume when the knocking started. 3 sharp raps on her apartment door, followed by a pause, then 3 more. When she opened the door, her heart nearly stopped. Mayor Robert Evans stood in her hallway, his silver hair immaculate as always, wearing his signature navy blazer with the town pin on the lapel. Behind him stood Mike Donovan, and at least a dozen other people, including Mrs. Peterson, still wearing her processing cap. Ms. Martinez, the mayor said formally, may we come in? Stunned, Eliza stepped back, allowing the strange procession to file into her small living room. Carol from the coffee cart, Mr. Jenkins from the hardware store, the high school baseball coach, the librarian, all watching her with expressions ranging from sympathy to determination. What's happening? Eliza asked, self-conscious about the basket of unfolded laundry on her couch and the half-eaten sandwich on her coffee table. Mayor Evans cleared his throat. It has come to my attention that Elegance Hair Studio has lost its finest asset today. Mike stepped forward. I told people what happened. It wasn't right. You helped my Melissa look beautiful for her prom when I couldn't afford it, said a woman Eliza recognized as the night shift cashier at the supermarket. She felt like a princess that night. You came to my house when my arthritis was so bad I couldn't drive, added Mr. Fitzgerald, who had to be approaching 90. Didn't charge me extra either. One by one they shared stories. Small kindnesses Eliza had nearly forgotten. Moments that had meant little to her, but apparently everything to them. The point is, Mayor Evans continued, when the testimonials finally ceased, Millbrook needs people like you, Eliza. People who understand that a community isn't just about business transactions. It's about taking care of each other. He pulled an envelope from his blazer pocket. The town council had an emergency meeting this afternoon. We've been looking to revitalize the old Pearson building on Elm Street. We'd like to offer you a special small business grant to open your own salon there. Eliza's knees weakened. What? Mrs. Peterson stepped forward, removing her processing cap to reveal half-finished highlights. We've all pledged to follow you wherever you set up shop, but we'd prefer it be here in Millbrook. I can't accept, Eliza began, but Mayor Evans shook his head. It's not charity, he said firmly. It's an investment in our town. The grant has requirements. Hiring local, participating in community events, that sort of thing. Terms are all in here. He extended the envelope again. Plus, I suspect it's simply good business sense. You already have a loyal clientele. Mike, standing quietly near the back of the group, caught her eye and nodded encouragingly. With trembling fingers, Eliza accepted the envelope. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Carol suggested, and laughter rippled through the group. "Yes," Eliza whispered, then louder, "Yes." 6 months later, Second Chance Salon celebrated its grand opening on Elm Street. The name, Eliza had decided, honored both her fresh start and the philosophy that everyone deserves an opportunity to reinvent themselves. The renovated space was bright and welcoming, with exposed brick walls, comfortable chairs, and a coffee station in the corner, supplied exclusively by Carol's coffee cart. A wall of windows overlooked the town square, and soft music played from speakers hidden in hanging plants. Victoria had sent a terse congratulations card, likely at her mother's insistence. Elegance Hair Studio had lost nearly half its clientele to Second Chance, not because Eliza had solicited them, but because loyalty in Millbrook ran deep. As Eliza arranged flowers on the reception desk before opening the doors for the celebration, the bell above the door jingled softly. Mike Donovan entered, looking nearly unrecognizable from the man she'd met that April morning. Clean-shaven, hair neatly trimmed, her handiwork from his appointment last week, wearing pressed khakis and a button-down shirt. "Technically, we're not open for another hour," Eliza teased. "I brought you something," Mike said, holding out a small wrapped package. Sort of a thank you and congratulations combined. Inside was a delicate pair of silver scissors, clearly vintage, with an inscription along the blade, "To see beauty where others don't." "Mike," Eliza breathed. "These are beautiful. They were my grandmother's," he explained. "She was a stylist, too, back in the day. They've been sitting in a drawer since she passed. I thought you should have them." Eliza looked up at him. This man who now worked full-time at the construction company, who had started a veteran support group that met Tuesday evenings in the community center, who smiled easily now and made eye contact when he spoke. "Your grandmother would be proud of how you've turned things around," she said softly. "I had help," Mike replied, holding her gaze. "Someone who saw something in me worth saving." The moment stretched between them, full of possibility, until the bell jangled again and Mayor Evans entered, followed by what seemed like half the town, all carrying gifts and well wishes. Later, as the celebration wound down and Eliza found a moment alone, she ran her fingers over her new scissors and thought about the strange, winding path that had led her here. How a simple act of kindness, one she'd performed without thinking twice, had set in motion events that transformed not just her life, but rippled outward to touch so many others. The true value of compassion, Eliza realized, can never be measured in dollars and cents. It exists in the dignity restored to a struggling veteran, in the confidence given to a young girl attending her first prom, in the respect shown to an elderly man who can no longer drive himself to appointments. These moments of human connection, reaching across differences, inconveniences, and discomforts to acknowledge our shared humanity, these are what build resilient communities. Victoria had seen only the immediate cost of giving away a $75 haircut. What she failed to understand was the immeasurable return on that investment. The loyalty it inspired, the relationships it strengthened, the trust it built. A business model focused solely on the bottom line ultimately proves unsustainable because it ignores the fundamental truth that we are all interconnected, all dependent on each other's goodwill. Second Chance Salon would thrive not because of clever marketing or competitive pricing, but because it recognized that every person who walked through its doors was more than a transaction. They were a neighbor, with stories and struggles, triumphs of their own. By honoring those stories, by creating a space where people felt truly seen and valued, Eliza had built something that transcended business. She had created community. As the last guests departed and Eliza prepared to lock up for the evening, she paused at the threshold, looking back at her salon, her dream realized in ways she could never have imagined. Mike waited on the sidewalk, having offered to walk her home, patient as she absorbed the moment. Tomorrow would bring a full appointment book, new challenges, perhaps even difficult decisions. But tonight, standing in the doorway of possibility, Eliza knew with absolute certainty that when kindness guides our actions, when we choose compassion over convenience, when we recognize the inherent worth in every person, That is when we truly find our purpose. That is when we create not just a living, but a life worth living. She turned the key in the lock, listening for the satisfying click, and smiled. Sometimes the greatest journeys begin with the smallest gestures. A cup of coffee shared, a pair of scissors lifted in service, the simple decision to see beyond appearances to the human being within. Did this story inspire you? Have you experienced a moment when kindness, given or received, changed everything? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know how this story resonated with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Heartwarming Stories Spark channel for more stories that remind us of the extraordinary power of ordinary compassion.